All right, just while I get this all up for you, I'm more than happy to answer questions during the conversation. Obviously, if some of the questions are slightly out of what we're discussing, then maybe we leave that to the end. So either there's a chat or a hand up. I'm not super good at the chats because it's hard to read and talk. Although I'm a female, there are some limits to my multitasking.
Well, Deirdre, we do have a couple of our board members are also monitoring the chat, so
Oh, great. Perfect.
So we can help out with that as well.
Okay, great. All right. So how many people, just as a show of hands, if you can just, put your hands up on the, in this area, have been using AI for requirements or for any of your business analysis work? Just so I can get a gauge. Okay. Okay. So some of you, maybe about a fifth, quarter, somewhere around there. Okay. So, and does anyone want to share some just quick insights, like one or two pros and cons of what you've had with your experience, and which platform did you use? If you could do it in a talk, that would be best. Steve, do you want
to? Yeah, generally very positive. It's so instead of running a Google search for some topic, I'm running in the Bing Chat GPT Bing version, and I just get a much more refined response. Where if I run a standard internet search, I get 100 different results, and I got to open sort through and open each one. Where if I'm doing that query through chat, it's much more refined and much more on point. I can also then continue to ask more refining questions to drill in. So yeah, just generally really positive. I've done, roles and responsibilities for my sponsors, for a power user, for my developers. What are those roles and responsibilities? I did, market research on a piece of software domain that I don't know anything about. Incident responses. What's the market research? Just kind of a wide range. It's much more conversational. I'm a SQL person. So I'm used to structured queries, structured language, where this is just much more conversational. And that's a big shift for me, not learning to just talk to AI as opposed to writing my very precise query. I've also used it for, to help me draft a pivot query in SQL. I never use pivot queries in SQL because they're hard to write. And I asked for some help from ChatGPT, and it was really helpful. My colleague put a query in and asked for a pivot query off of the base query, and it produced a really useful response. So kind of a wide range of things.
That's great. Thanks, Steve. I think that's what a lot of us realize. And just to your point around the different types of queries, AI doesn't need kind of logic process steps to do things. It's actually quite smart. It understands context. Obviously, it all depends on how much you feed, and I'll go through some of that detail now. But it's a whole new different kettle of fish, and it is going to have a big impact in all industries. I like to use the example, if you think of, and I might be revealing some of my age, but back in the 90s, when the internet first came out, which was, I think, 93, and for from what that was, with those horrible dial-ups and those disgusting websites where they had those flashing lights and everything was in fuchsia or black or anything like that, to today when we have this far more intuitive, we all work on cloud. Nobody would have thought that it was even possible in the 90s. We all work on cloud now, and we have massive applications. That's 30 years. That's why I said 93. And so over the last 30 years, the equivalent of the rate that that AI is growing, to get to the place where we are today on the internet, AI will get to that place in 4.3 years. This is huge. So you have to think of, what does this mean for your role, and what does this mean for the work, and how do you leverage it? Because when all these tech came out, people were doing a really good job at figuring out how this stuff will work and finding ways. So for those who were BAs in the 90s and the 2000s, there was no body of knowledge, there was no standard. It was kind of like the Wild West, and we had to figure it all out. And now we've got a body of knowledge, and it's going to be like that a little bit with AI. But AI is a really helpful tool, and it's going to help you a lot in your work. So let me get started. All right, so we're going to talk about business requirements. Particularly, I'm really passionate about this topic with AI. Obviously, okay, we did do some introductions, but I am a business architect and a business analyst, and I run a company, and we have like heaps of students. I think it's about 11,000 from around the world. And we work in 96 countries, to be very specific. And what I've noticed with all of the learners that I've met, you guys all have the same problems with working with stakeholders and doing requirements and managing scope creep and projects that don't deliver in time. And it's the same thing. So if you think a different country is going to be different, you're absolutely incorrect. It's going to be the exact same job. And that, I think, is really good as well for BAs. And I've said this before, because it unites us in our delivery and our approach and how things are working. So what are we going to look at today? We're going to look at the role of the business analyst, and we're going to compare it with the business architect. And I know that might sound like, why would we do that? But AI really has to understand structure, and it has to understand, and I'm not talking structure as you mentioned earlier, Steve. It's not structure in terms of process modeling, it's structure in terms of objects, and what is the context of the business. We look at BACM in Babok, and BACM is like, who is this for? What are we doing? And some of that architecture knowledge base will help us. We'll look at what business analysts do, what business architects do very briefly, and then we'll look at how to effectively use AI, because I like to say AI is a digital twin. It's going to help you. It's going to help you find information that you need, but you have to reason with it. So that conversation is one of the options. There are several, but the whole understanding of AI is around what you working with is a stakeholder. You're working with another person who needs to understand what you're saying and why you're saying that and why you're asking for certain things, because its advantage to you is to have this super speedy access to information that you'll never have had otherwise. You'd have to be talking to 10 stakeholders and asking them what they want, and it'll take 2 weeks, versus what AI says, which it'll take, a couple of minutes. So we'll look at the requirements you need for AI to build your requirements, and we'll then obviously Q&A. Now, it's nearly Business Analysis Day, which is on the 1st of November every year. And I often forget about it. I don't know. You just get so busy by the end of the year. And this was somebody, I think it was the IIBA, or at least one of the chapters posted, the definition of a business analyst, someone who does precision guesswork based on unreliable data provided by those with questionable knowledge. I thought, that's not far off from, that wizard idea. We got to pull it all together. And then Daniel Lambert, who's a good friend of mine, he said it sounds less accurate if a decent business architecture practice was in place to assist business analysts with their description of requirements, user stories, and epics, etc. And so I'll explain that in a little bit more detail. But this I thought was just a good way to highlight what business analysts do and how difficult it is to try and get information to actually help with the change in the organization. So typically, I'm just going to use a metaphor. If you often say that analysts are like investigative journalists, we have to provide information to the business, and we have to provide that information in a way or in a form that makes sense to the business. So we've got to investigate. So as an investigative journalist, you've got to give some background. You've got to say, when did this happen? How did this happen? What's the root cause of things? And, if we're going to fix it, what are the requirements that we need in order to fix it? However, if you look at architecture, we look to understand the ecosystem. Now, what often happens in projects is you sit in a situation where you've got a project that isn't well set up. It's got a set of requirements, but those requirements may have an impact on a whole different set of projects, and part of that ecosystem isn't well understood, and the impacts of doing that project. So for those who've done CRMs, and then you realize another business unit is also doing CRM, and that leads to, oh gosh, we're not getting the right data, or the structures are different. That's the difference. So when I talk about business architecture, I'm saying we need to have what is termed a knowledge base. And we need to understand the ecosystem of how the business is operating. And so we work on, the architects work on the breadth of the business, understanding the broader picture, whereas your analyst works at the depth and really analyzing. And if you are fortunate where people recognize the value of being able to analyze things and give you time, that's super helpful in your projects. So understanding that AI is going to need to understand the context of requirements in terms of the breadth of the organization. In other words, the type of organization it is, but then also be able to give you the level of detail that you require to really match it. And so I think that is a great way to explain the two roles. I hope it's simple enough and not too simple. But the idea is that both business analysts and business architects are building a knowledge brief. And this knowledge, the knowledge that is being built is what's required for us to truly understand kind of what we need. Now, just to let you know, I keep pushing the wrong button. All businesses have architecture. So just like all houses have architecture, not all houses have been architected. I'm sure you've walked into a few houses and you've gone, oh, hell, this looks real bad. And then you've gone to, if you like me and you watch these houses and architects and blah, 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 and you can see some stunning things that have been designed. And often what happens in businesses have been around for a while. And so we have to renovate them and we have to improve the way that they look. And so our requirements, we need to understand that if we're digitizing or doing digital transformation, or we're doing digital enhancement, and actually, let me just explain those three things. Digitization is when we convert something like a piece of paper to a PDF. And that's a very small project and there has requirements, but it doesn't involve massive change. And so that wouldn't be something from an architectural point of view we'd really be fully concerned about. The next area is digital enhancement. This is where we start automating some of our processes. We look at how we can do things more efficiently and effectively. And this would be, this wouldn't be transformation. This would just be, we're starting to improve our systems and the way that we do things, but we're not essentially changing our business model, which is what digital transformation is. So if you think of Uber, Uber was a version of digital transformation where it went from the taxi industry and it had an entire different business model to what the taxi industry had. Whereas Uber Eats is just an enhancement. They've added a component onto the infrastructure that they already have. Now, in our businesses, our business architecture looks something like this, like real nasty. And the architecture that we look at, when we're doing improvements, whether it is digital enhancement, which is the most thing we do, we try to improve our processes and the way that we do things. When we're looking at that kind of structure, any one of the three I mentioned, that image I showed you around the ecosystem, what we try to do with business architecture is we try to rationalize some of these components. Now, again, if you think of an architect building your house, the architect does a drawing of your house, a piece of paper of your house, if you want to call it that. It's not an actual house. And this is the difference between a conceptual model and a physical model. And so when we look at architecture, we try to create conceptual models to show how things are designed and how they work. But it's not going to be your actual house. And when you try over-design an architectural model, then you get something that looks super nasty like this, which is why we try, streamline it. So when we are looking at AI particularly, we need to create a structure for AI. This is the type of structure I'm talking about, and I'm not talking about actual, what would it be called? I'm not talking about things like, connections like SQL queries or anything like, and not that kind of structure. I'm talking about overall, what does the database look like, or the knowledge base, we like to term it. And then what areas of the structure are going to be affected and be looked at. So AI is really good at understanding the knowledge base and how to provide information at different levels. It's really good at that, but you have to know what you're doing. And this is quite important. Of course, you can do requirements, and actually ChatGPT 3.5 is really good at requirements, but it does have limitations, which I'll discuss. But ideally, you want to actually do requirements that matter, not necessarily just requirements for requirements' sake. So if we look at the business architect and the business analyst, so your architect is building that library of the knowledge base of what the ecosystem is of your organization. How does it look? Structuring it, making sure that the data is structured in a particular way. And, that is looking good. And then your business analyst is taking a set of information and building, using a knowledge brief to really build that structure. I'll get into the rules of AI in a minute. All right, so when we talk about business architecture and the role of a business architect, and I often say they're very closely related to business analysts, so but I need to have some distinction. At a macro level, we look at that, that nasty picture that I showed you. We look at improving that nasty picture. We look at governing policies. We look at our capabilities. We look at our knowledge base, and we say, okay, what does the business do? How is it structured? Just like when an architect looks at your house, what is this house? How big is it, etc. And we get an idea. And then we look at the strategic level. Now, I know Babak talks about strategy analysis, and you might do analysis at this level, but often you'll find in projects you're not actually doing strategy, which can be challenging. And those who've done the Agile, by the way, and you'll know that we have something we call the strategic horizon and initiative horizon, and then delivery horizon. And so the same in architecture, we look at the strategic level. So we look at specific areas of our business, and they could be large or small, depending on the types of transformation or digital change we're doing. And we would then look at the vision, the mission, what we want to change, and we come up with a strategy document that would help us, create a contextual rationale for change. And typically that's where the BA would start analyzing some of that. And then at a program level, you would have strategic initiatives, you would have programs and initiatives, and this would be overarching. So those who use methodologies like SAFe, remember we've got different layers of delivery, just like you have when you work in Agile contexts. And then at the lowest level, typically this is where we have some governance around the projects to make sure that the investigation and the research that the business analyst has been doing goes back to the knowledge base. So in other words, if that book has changed and is no longer applicable, that needs to be fed back into the library so that we understand that that library can work, even if it doesn't work right now. All right, so let's talk about AI, and I'm going to show you an example, and then we'll deep dive a little bit further into more of it. So now, what does AI need? Like, you got to think of AI as a partner. So what would AI need in order to really be able to support the business? So it requires context. It needs to know about your business. So although it's really smart and can come up with ideas, if you don't understand the context, and as Babak would say, the Backham, I say Backham. I don't know, maybe the acronym is pronounced differently. But, understand the need, understand what the solution is, understand the stakeholders, understand the value, the change, and the strategy, or not the strategy, the change initiative. So your AI needs that too. And so when we put in instructions to the AI and we're not very good at giving it context, it does impact the ability of the AI to actually deliver. Next, it needs to understand its role. Why is it there? It needs a purpose. Because I can promise you, if you don't tell it what its role is, it will think it's a marketing or salesperson. Like, it's really terrible at overselling and using overzealous words. Like, my biggest pain point is when AI, I can see if somebody's done AI immediately, if it uses either moreover or delve, then I know AI has written it. It needs to understand the principles of architecture. So it needs to understand the framework and what governs that foundation of the organization. Again, you can work on just investigating a part of the business and you will still get requirements. So don't get me wrong, but I think the conversation is really about the quality of the requirements. You need to understand structured, AI needs to understand structured outputs. In other words, if you want an output in a table or in a spreadsheet, you're going to need to explain what that means and why you want that particular output. To get good requirements, you need to have what is called containers or requirement containers, and then it needs good inputs to frame the architecture. So it's only good as the instruction that you provide. So it needs some context in which to work. So just as if you were using a marketing bot, it would be the same situation. All right, so going through all of that, let me show you this is a bot that we've customized at Agora. And this bot is trained to be a business architect who can do requirements. And so everything that I've discussed with you today, there's a little bit more information, obviously, but that's what has been done. So when I start playing this, I'll talk you through it. But the idea is we've brought in a business architecture knowledge base for Supreme Coffee, which is a small coffee shop, fictional one, in New Zealand that wants to franchise around the world. So they now have to build many things. So the first thing I've asked it to do is to build a requirement structure. So think of that picture I showed you with that guy who's investigating the water. What we're doing here is we're taking the architecture and we're saying, okay, you're going to investigate this piece of water. You're going to deep dive into it. And so I've asked it to build a requirements architecture. And the requirements here will come directly from the structures and the rules we've created with this bot from the business architecture of Supreme Coffee. So let's get going. So as you can see, just have a sip of my water. It has now started to build. Firstly, you'll see traceability. So you've got a unique ID, which is awesome. You've got your tiers, you've got your levels. You've got your capability within the organization to be able to manage the brand of Supreme Coffee. And it gives a whole bunch of definitions and descriptions. And then it also lists the business unit, the different information concept states and the stakeholders that would be involved. Okay, sorry, I'm going to go back a second. So then I said, taking the architecture, that's in the business. Now you've drawn, think of those books I said you're drawing out. You've got the container now, you've got the high-level books or categories of books that you're drawing out. Create 20 user stories. And I'm using traceability here. So it tells me which capability it's using and the user story requirement, which is amazing. And it knows the rules as well, that you have to have it concise and atomic and, simple, and there's a whole bunch of them. And so it's built that, and it's used the different stakeholders. And then I said, create acceptance criteria for just the first one. So just the first user story. And again, it's done a pretty good job around understanding the guidelines. But remember, it understands my business. And this is what I say to analysts. Remember, you're a business analyst. Next, I asked it to, this first bit goes a little bit quicker. The other one's a bit slow. I asked it to use the acceptance criteria to make, what did I say? Yes, acceptance criteria, yes. So it's created the acceptance criteria. Then I asked it to create functional requirements, and you'll see this was really nice. It had the functional requirements. Obviously, a BA is going to have to validate and verify all of this, right? We know this. 7.2 and 7.3 of your Babcock guide tells you to do this. And so you'll have to validate it. But what's really nice, it gives you a traceability to say this is acceptance criteria 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. Then I've asked it for non-functional requirements. So remember, that's around the qualities of the delivery. And so it gave me non-functional, sorry, I went through that. It's given me non-functional requirements. Now, for those who are who've been working, it seems more systems focused. So I told it to create non-functional requirements that weren't only system requirements, which it has done. It's looked at the logo, it's looked at the color scheme, the communication for non-functional requirements. So it's super smart. And then create transitional requirements, which was also great. And remember, we're tracing this all back to the original first user story. So we talk about in business analysis, a decomposition, functional decomposition, and that's what we've been doing here. So now it's created of one user story. And remember, that's an abstract concept, a whole bunch of, oops, I skipped a little bit, of transition requirements. So, like I said, you have to validate and verify all of this. I was like, I just accept everything you say. So, you know, I don't advise that, but certainly it's a great start. And I found that when you have a container of requirements, like a batch that you work with, it's pretty good at working with a single batch of data. It can work with more batches. You're just going to have to manage the traceability within your systems. And then, and like I say, you can just use an Excel spreadsheet. It's not that difficult to do. But you never want to repeat these requirements. This is the important thing. Once that requirement has been matched to a capability in your business, you should be able to reuse it, but not rewrite it, because you need to find it again. So then you will know if a project is using a particular capability, a particular requirement in a different project, then you know there's a duplication of effort. So it's really important that you keep that traceability going. Now, I've just asked her to create additional user stories. I found that you can do a lot, and you can do a lot. So I've just done another 20, and I checked them, and it doesn't seem to be duplicating. So my advice here is do as many as you possibly can. Yes, Steve, we have trained the bot specifically to be custom built. Because I actually started with ChatGPT 4, and I got so frustrated. I thought I was going to lose my mind, because as you dive deeper every single time, it kind of goes and hallucinates. Not yet, but I've got other bots for you, so don't worry. You'll get your own to play with first. Oh, now I started again. Let me go back here. All right, so now it's created the 20 user stories, which is fantastic. I really like it. And then the next thing I asked it to do, so I was pretty happy with that, but like I said, I didn't go into too much detail. I've done so much testing on this bot. And then I said, create a value stream. Now, a value stream, I'll show you, is an architectural concept, but it's like a high-level process. It's not a process document, so please don't be like, Deirdre said that. But it's like that. It looks similar. These are the, these are the key steps that you'll have to deliver. And basically, so I've said using that information container, you know, the batch of data that we've pulled out, create a value stream. So what it's done is it said, these are the stakeholders, these are the steps that we would follow when we updating our brand. So imagine this as a process diagram, you know, going from left to right. Obviously, it's not there yet. When it can design processes, I'll be so happy. Oh my gosh, like, that'll be so much easier. But you can imagine step 1, step 2, step 3, and the value delivered overarching at the end. So we don't measure, we don't go backwards and forwards, like we don't do swim lanes in architecture. We just say, these are the primary bits of delivery we need to produce. Really sorry, guys. I'm trying to navigate too many things at the moment. And then we'll have our supporting capabilities, and so forth. So this value stream depicts the key stages and stakeholders and capabilities involved in delivering consistent brand experience across all franchises. Now, remember, we are approximately, I think it's like 4 minutes, no, 3.21 minutes in. And this is where we've got to already. So the next thing that I asked it to do was to cross map. So think of your process, the user stories for each of these stages in the value stream. And this is what it's doing. So it's saying in this stage, when you're developing the brand strategy, these are the particular things these particular user stories you would include. And again, so what you're doing is you're going, here's the process and here are the requirements linked to the process, at least from a high level, conceptual level. And it's pretty good at doing that. And obviously you'll have to work through this quite a bit. So now we get into the stage where we can start doing solution requirements in these steps. So it's almost like a current to future state evaluation of where you're going. And then I said, well, how long will this take to actually, implement this within an initiative and the number of stakeholders required? Now, remember, we're talking about Supreme Coffee, which is a small coffee shop. So it's really smart. It's thought about what I've said. And it has now told me, first went 10, then 20, then if there were 40 stakeholders, it's given me an idea of how long it'll take to implement particular things. And then so now I went, okay, I really like that. So I've chosen the 10 stakeholder option, right? And if you look at chapter 6 of your BABA guide, it also says you should be analyzing what your options are. And I'm just throwing some BA tips in there as well, if you want to earn some of your points. And so it's now looking to estimate what will these people be doing in this particular initiative. So here it's saying, for instance, your executive team would provide input into the brand strategy. That should take about a month. You would approve the brand guidelines, sponsor the role of the training, review the findings. So now it's giving the stakeholder team a real good look at what is happening. And from a stakeholder analysis point of view. So think of chapter 4, where you have to elicit requirements and you've got to elicit information. But it's bringing that information to you. Obviously, you still have to validate and verify all of this, right? But now you're analyzing the information. You're not trying to find information. This is the key difference with being a BA and using AI. And then lastly, I said, provide me an initiative roadmap. So give me an idea of what the different things would be to break down. I often call this next steps in business analysis. So being able to feed back information to your exec team. And now it said, okay, it should take about 6 months. And these would be the different phases that you'd go through. And these would be kind of the initiative goals and the brand manager. Now, remember, an initiative is not a project. You might have to have several little projects under an initiative. It just depends on how your organization is structured. So it's done, in my mind, in the 8 minutes, a very awesome job. And so I liked it. And so just to give you some background into the bot itself, I was using Anthropic. So I didn't use GPT-4 for this because it can manage more data. And it does a better job at being able to process information. But I think it's with AWS, so Amazon Web Services. They've just acquired Anthropic for I don't know how many billion, as they do. Short change. So, all right. So before I go into the next section, just to understand the knowledge pyramid, let me just quickly see if there's been any questions. What did the original Word document you fed look like? It was all around the business. I'll show you a meta model. What was the prompt that produced this? That first prompt. So all the prompts you see are the prompts that were producing this. Were humans notoriously poor at estimating timeframes? Yes. This is actually one really important thing that I wanted to share with BAs. Everything is estimation, right? You have to make so many assumptions because no one knows the future. If we did, life would be a lot easier, but we can make good assumptions. And even Babcock says this, that we have to make assumptions when we do future state analysis. But you can really, find this. Now, with the bots, they have been trained, they know, they've looked at masses of data, like big data from all over the place, so they can see these things. But they're not going to replace the BA just yet. And it definitely won't be next year, so don't you worry. But you do have to train yourself on how to ask the bot to give you good information, because that's going to make your job a lot quicker. And you do have to actually go through it and validate it and verify it, because otherwise you're going to be in trouble. So, there's that part of it. So your role is changing in terms of you've got now a partner of information, but you're also needing to equip yourself with understanding how to ask the right questions, and how to really use that more effectively. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, Ruth. Ruth Ann, yeah. Okay, so the last bit of your question, if too early to tell, then it's looking at this in the works. Okay, so I think based on the business architecture knowledge base that you feed it, you will have some history. So in other words, you will be able to use historical data where the bot can make predictions. I don't think anyone wants to see those predictions, to be honest. But yeah, I think it would be really good to look at past data. I would say looking at past data outside of your organization might be a better way to do it. Use fictional cases and things like that. So that you can train it fresh, but you're not putting your business in any compromising position. That would just be my advice. And then when training data was fed, what training data was fed into AI? The business architecture knowledge base, which I'll show you in a minute. So it was all about the business, that broader conceptual view of the organization. So when we look at, did I actually add the knowledge base here? I didn't. I'll have to find it at the end, right? I have to go and check another slide, but there's an image of the meta model. So business analysts and business architects are looking for information, right? We are knowledge workers. So we are helping the business make good decisions. And so we have to acquire knowledge in order to share so that they can make decisions, whether it be a project management, a sponsor, an executive. They're needing to find information really quickly. And we have specific skills that can do that. And as I said, we work at different levels. So where AI sits is it can help pull data and provide some level of information. Again, information that needs to be validated and verified. But this is going to speed up that whole, have meetings, workshops with stakeholders, trying to empty what's in people's heads and rather use a more effective, efficient way. Whether this isn't to say you shouldn't have human interaction, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying that some things we can certainly speed up. It'll make everybody's life a hell of a lot easier. And now that I'm been building several bots, I think my nickname has become Mother of Bots for those who watch Game of Thrones. But I was like, I don't mind that job title. I do have human babies too. So, all right. Now, with AI, with business analysis, I usually say that business analysts do 10 things, and this is where your bot can really help you. You often have to find out what has happened. So you look at the background, you look at the problem or the opportunity that is appearing, you look at the critical success factors or the measurements, and you look at root cause analysis as to why things are going as hell. Oh, but hell. That's funny. Stakeholders. So what should happen when we look at our change and our future state, we need to understand stakeholders, we need to understand the current state, the business requirements, all the way down to solution requirements. So this is a big piece of work. Future state, cost to benefit, next steps, and recommendations. So these are the 10 typical things that we do as BAs. Some are, more work than others. Now you can imagine AI can speed this up for you, and having a good knowledge base can speed this up for you even further. So that would be really the goal, I suppose, in doing this. So for those who know the requirement schema, hopefully you all do, when we look at architecture, we look to bring in the capability modeling from architecture in to understand the overarching business requirements, because remember, business architects look at that ecosystem, and so we can provide that information. And then when it comes to the user requirements, we look at the information concepts. So we already look to map the stakeholders and the business units and several other things like products, but we do that at a conceptual level. So a user story is still a conceptual level to say things like, we won't be very specific as to exactly which system component is being used, but we'll say something which would say the system needs to look like this, right? And then when you look at the solution requirements, we'd start cross-mapping the user stories with the value streams and then create functional, non-functional, and transitional requirements. So this is where the bot needs to understand some of this information, needs to understand how that has been structured and keep it traceable to that. And then this needs to be traceable to that. So it's typically how it's working. Okay, so what can you get and what can you not get from AI? So let's start with the first bit. So firstly, AI has difficulty in understanding the complexity and nuances of hierarchical data. And this simply means that it doesn't recognize that something may be more important than another thing. So for instance, when you're doing brand changes, it might see, let's say, the logo as equally as important as the document that's being created. And that is where it's not that good. So that is where you want your, you want your bot to kind of figure that out. And then building a table incrementally. So let's say you're building one set of requirements, and then you're doing another set of requirements and another, and you're building it on each other. It starts hallucinating. It gets a little bit confused after a while. And yeah, I haven't told it bad words because it's banned on the systems, but I've used my own words to describe how I feel when that happens. AI can repeat mistakes, so it almost forgets that you've corrected it, and then it comes back later. It's like it's like a child that goes, oh mom, can I get this? And then they think they'll try again and ask you again. this is what they do. So this is what the bots do as well. So it repeats certain mistakes even after it's been corrected. And like I said, the bots are learning so quickly. So I'm saying this today but next year, I'm not going to guarantee that this is what I'm going to find as an output. But these are good things to know to build a foundational understanding yourselves as to how to speak to it. And then as table complexity increases, AI's performance degrades significantly. It gives you less text, it forgets to add text. And this is because it has token limitations and how much information it'll share depending on the bot you use in itself. So the bot in itself as to how much words it can give you is limited. And so it starts degrading itself, starts self-crashing. So often what you have to do is you have to draw little pieces and you've got to piece it all together yourself. And again, this might change, you know, in the near future, and I will say near. What do I love about my bot? Despite challenges, it's going to change. Your life's going to change. If anyone thinks that businesses are not going to bring this in really, really soon, you're smoking something. It is definitely something that we need to be very aware of, not only for ourselves to help us, but also to understand that when the business is ready to fully embrace this, that you're ready to, and that you're not holding the process down. And you have to be trained. And, you know, that's why I say it's like a digital twin. You have to be trained on how to use certain terms, how to explain things in a particular way. What does this mean when you say this is a requirement or this is a transitional requirement? Do you know what it means? So this is where things like the Babok guide are super, super helpful. AI is growing and learning very quickly, as I mentioned. For those who know Moore's law, it's 7 times Moore's law. A deep understanding of business architecture principles is necessary, and that would apply for business analysis as well to manage optimal results. And then like AI, while AI like ChatGPT can serve as a valuable tool for business architects and analysts, it's far from being able to replace your roles. There is no evidence in my mind that it can actually change the fact that you need to be there and do things. But the boring stuff, you know, trying to elicit information and doing that, you can absolutely speed that up quite radically, but you've got to be able to build this properly. So that's super important. Okay, let me just go through a couple of these questions that I've spotted. Can you describe the AI bot building process at a high level? I'll try. Let me just quickly go through if there's any simpler questions. There's a great little tongue. That would be the perfect fit. That's funny. I do call my bots names, by the way. So I do actually give them personas and all kinds of things. So, and then I think that AI is emulating the human brain. It definitely is a language model. So, you know, humans have a specific way of speaking and talking and describing things and storytelling and that type of thing. And AI is trying to simulate it. Now, it's not a sentient being. It doesn't feel emotions and things like that. So, but it does understand language, and it's really good. And I don't know how it does it, to be honest, but man, it's pretty damn good. I'm not gonna lie. And then, so yeah, I agree with you, Antonia. Hari, how generative whatever bot you've shown now is an example of generative AI, yes? Or will generative AI take this to the next level? It is generative AI. I do think it's going to happen. People are going to need to customize things within their organizations. And the reality is using just, you know, the normal data source is not going to be enough. And there's going to be regulations and all kinds of things that are going to come in really quickly. So there will be a change. I don't know what it is right now, to be honest. sounds like the AI may be more helpful with more limited areas of work. Yes, 100% agree. Think of it as a character. And that goes back to this business. You know, it needs to have a specific job that it does, not just doing heaps of different things. For instance, defining industry benchmarks. Yeah, perfect example, Ruthann. Doesn't seem it's ready. No, it's not. So 100%. And again, this really does depend on the different kind of models that are being done. AI can build fundamental structures of business architectures, true data architectures, and good rules, but it yet hasn't captured the emotional nuances. Absolutely. And I don't think it will. And I think that's why our role in working with people and really trying to understand context and collaboration and all of that is where we'll have to get better at, and not have to worry about the paperwork. So I said, you don't have to worry about the documents as much now as really working on the collaboration side. Hari, thanks for your response. Okay, let's just go back to that first one. Okay, an AI bot is like a role. Think of it as a person. You're bringing somebody onto the job, and their job was to be your assistant as a business analyst. And so you need to teach it how to help you. And so AI is all about providing you with information as your assistant. And that's why I say you have to be very particular around what its role is and what it does and what it doesn't do. You know, in Babok, we talk about constraints. You absolutely have to have constraints in your bot, because otherwise, like I said, you're going to get a whole bunch of marketing material and you're going to have a lot of more overs that come out of, you know, the responses. So do make sure that you understand what you want the bot to do for you. That's the main thing. And like I said, at some point, we're going to have to look at bots doing particular things at particular times and having particular roles. Actually, that's a good segue into the last bit of my presentation. I've only got one seat left on this live course that I'm doing on mastering architecture strategy through to requirements using AI. But I do have these free bots for everybody. You can just go onto my site. You can use so I'm using Poe, but if you're using Poe, you can either use the free version where you'll get what is it, GPT 3.5, because that's the free version anyway. So it won't be as good as the other one. I don't earn anything out of this, so it's completely free from our side. We've built it as our team to help you with your exams. And that's the bot's purpose. It's not intended to help you schedule your flights or anything like that. It's a BA bot, and it responds differently to ECBAs, CCBAs, and CBABs because of the complexity in the exams. So it's completely free to use. You need to go onto our website. There's a link there. You will have to sign up because my team are going to be in contact and you are using the system. But it's completely free to use. So I do encourage you, if you are preparing for your exams, start there. Again, a disclaimer, the bot doesn't always get it right. And if you don't ask good questions, it's going to come up with great material that's irrelevant. So it's just there to help you. And you need to put in good questions. And to the question earlier, we are building we're in beta version. If anyone's interested in being part of the beta version, please contact Brad or myself. You can do that via LinkedIn on how to build a solid architecture through to requirements. So, and that'll only be November, December. But that is a good set to have a look at. But for now, if you're itching to go, go look at the free bots and let it help you with your learning. And it's really good actually, because you can do multiple things, and it's built to give you scenarios and give you situational analysis and all of that. So do have a look at that. Oh, thanks so much for sharing the link, which is in the chat. Make sure that you have the menu. I don't know, someone said they couldn't find the menu. If you can't find the menu, Brad is your go-to guy, and he'll send you the direct links to the different bots. But yeah, that's it. So any other questions? You guys have been awesome. Often with a lot of these online sessions, nobody says anything and there's no faces. And yeah, so I'm really happy that you asked some really great questions and been into it. So that's it for now. Any other questions, or you can step out of the bot conversation if you really have to, but yeah, I'm more than happy to field those. I can see a couple of familiar names and faces. Michael. Okay. I think he's still on silent on that side. You're all welcome. I'm very glad you got something out of it. And yeah, happy botting. I don't think that's the term. I usually say happy learning, but I'm not sure. Okay, so did you feed the Babok? We've got the free summary guide of the Babok, and we've got some free uploads that you can feed the Babok legitimately. You know, people do their own thing, but we have fed it with our personal material that we have with Agora. So it has been trained, and in the free section, there's free material that you can use to feed your version of the bot too. So please do that. I'm more than happy. That's why it's there. Yeah. I'm not sure who asked that question. Thank you. Really good overview. Yep. Concept exams. Okay, good. Okay, no other questions. I think I'll stop the share for now. I think he's still on silent. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you so much for a great presentation. And thank you from Portland, Seattle, and Victoria for joining, everybody for joining today.
Yeah.
And once I figure out how to transfer the YouTube, the recording to you, I understand it's going to get posted on your YouTube channel. And I did check that out, and there's several presentations already there that folks can also look at.
We don't have to do the videos, but we like to do them because people ask different questions in the sessions. And absolutely. I do kind of mix it up a little bit now and then if I, because I don't record what I'm saying. I typically just talk. But yes, if you want to see any of the other sessions, particularly the FAQs at the end, it might cover a few more. But you guys you've asked more questions than most groups do. So I think it'd be great if we could get that on as well.
Awesome.
Get some answers in there.
So are there anything else? It looks like we're pretty well wrapped then. Oh, looks like somebody from Seattle, John Langford, raised his hand.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I work for the power company here in Seattle, one of them. And we recently got rid of our PMO and decentralized everything, as happens sometimes. And I have been put on a community of practice to kind of figure out what we do next. So I was wondering if there's anybody in the energy sector on the call that I might be able to do some benchmarking with. I'll take that as a no. Is there anybody else that I could network with to just get some just bounce some ideas, and I can go to my my other community of practice with about ways that we can build up our own BA architecture, because really we just got rid of our PMO. It's gone. And I get a lot of agency in say and what is going to happen next, and I just want to do it right.
Now, I'm not
What
sure
does-
if Joel,
what-
oh, sorry.
What does PMO stand for, John? PMO.
Project Management Office.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Or it's not Prominence's office. Yeah. Well, you could talk to ChatGPT, see what I think. As a start.
There
I was going to
are,
suggest just reaching out to Joel, and who's the chair of the Seattle chapter, and
Right.
see if he can give you some leads into the Seattle sort of Pacific Northwest community.
you can also
Yeah,
go
I'll follow
to
up with you. This is Joel.
yeah, you can also go to the Business Architecture Guild that provide reference models for the energy sector. I think it's about $75 to use it, but you'll have to, if you're not a member of the guild, the Business Architecture Guild, but they do have different reference models that you can use. It is architectural, so it's not going to be, exactly what you need for a specific PMO, but it's going to give you some insights there. So not exactly what
thank
you're
you.
looking for, but similar.
John, I'm not sure if your organization is part of Western Energy Institute. So that'd be like gas and electric utilities right throughout Western North America. That might be if you could look into that too, see if you can reach out to some folks that way.
Okay, well, Deirdre, thank you so much. Very much appreciated for your time. And what time is it there for you? Like you're tomorrow, like 8 hours ahead tomorrow or something like that?
It is 20 to 4 p.m. It's probably quite significantly different from where you guys are.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody. And
Thank you.
thank you for joining.
Thanks.